Eleanor, I need 30 million. What's wrong? Is there a problem with the company? I stopped what I was doing in the kitchen and turned to face the man I'd been married to for 3 years. Kevin avoided my gaze. It's just that the working capital is a little tight. Can you cover it for now? I'll pay you back once the project generates revenue. I frowned. In 3 years, I had already invested 50 million into his company. Each time he said it was a temporary loan, but I hadn't seen a single penny back. We're husband and wife, and I'll definitely support you with the company, but 30 million is no small sum. You at least have to tell me what it's for, right? I said calmly. Why are you asking so many questions? Kevin's tone suddenly became impatient. You never used to ask about these things before. Why are you so nitpicky now? I froze. 3 years ago, I was a senior partner at an investment firm, earning a 7-figure salary and managing multi-million-dollar assets. When I met Kevin, he was just a struggling entrepreneur with a startup dream. Impressed by his talent and ambition, I not only married him but also poured all my savings into his venture. Over these 3 years, I had practically emptied my own pockets, covering his office rent, paying his team's salaries, and funding his projects. And now, he was calling me nitpicky? Forget it, I'll find someone else to borrow from. Kevin interrupted me, grabbing his jacket as if to leave. Just then, his phone rang. The name on the caller ID hit me like a bolt from the blue, Chloe. That name was all too familiar to me. Chloe, Kevin's first love, the woman who chose to study abroad when he was at his lowest. Although rarely mentioned her in the past 3 years, I knew she had never truly left his heart. Kevin glanced at his phone, his expression softening instantly. Chloe? You're back? A sweet, delicate voice came from the phone. Kevin, I'm at the airport. Can you pick me up? I'll be right there. Kevin responded almost immediately, then hastily hung up. He looked at me, a flicker of guilt in his eyes. I'm going to pick up a friend. I stood in the kitchen, watching Kevin's hurried departure, a mix of emotions churning inside me. The man who had been anxious and desperate for 30 million moments ago had instantly transformed into someone else at the sound of Chloe's voice. I picked up my phone and opened my banking app to check Kevin's spending history. As husband and wife, our accounts were linked, so I could see every one of his large transactions. The latest entry left me utterly dumbfounded, a transfer to Chloe, for 30 million, with the note startup. The transfer had occurred 10 minutes ago. Meaning, at the very same time he was asking me for money, he had already transferred 30 million to Chloe? I stared blankly at my phone screen, my mind a void. I scrolled further down and found more shocking entries. Last month, a transfer to Chloe for 5 million, noted living. 2 months ago, a transfer to Chloe for 2 million, noted rent. 3 months ago, a transfer to Chloe for 10 million, noted investment. My hands started trembling. So, all these months, Kevin had been frequently asking me for money, and it was all for Chloe. And I, like an idiot, had believed it was for company financial difficulties. What chilled me even more was that these sums added up to nearly 50 million, almost all my savings from recent years. Just then, my phone rang. It was my assistant, Taylor. Ms. Lin, Mr. Chin just asked me to prepare a stock transfer agreement to transfer 30% of the company's shares to someone named Chloe. Were you aware of this? My heart sank to rock bottom. 30% of the company's shares, at its current valuation, were worth at least 200 million. I understand. Don't process it yet, wait for my confirmation. I hung up the phone and collapsed onto the couch. It was important to remember that for this company to be where it was today, my investment accounted for the lion's share. More than half of that 30% share was bought with my money. I remembered Kevin's words earlier, calling me nitpicky, and couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. Yes, I shouldn't be nitpicky. After all, I was just his wife in name only, while Chloe was the one who got away, the true love of his heart. But starting today, I decided I would no longer be the Eleanor who didn't quibble over details. I picked up my phone and dialed my lawyer. James, I need you to investigate all assets under my husband's name, including company shares, real estate, and investment projects, everything. Ms. Lin, are you planning to? I want a divorce. Kevin didn't return home until 11 at night. He still had a cheerful smile on his face, clearly having enjoyed his time with Chloe. Seeing me waiting for him in the living room, the smile instantly vanished from his face. Why aren't you asleep yet? He took off his jacket, his tone a little unnatural. We need to talk. About, I said coolly. Hearing the name, Kevin's hand visibly paused, but he quickly regained his composure. Chloe is my friend. She just returned to the country. I was just helping her arrange accommodation. Friend? I couldn't help but chuckle. Do friends need you to transfer 30 million to them? Kevin spun around abruptly, a flicker of panic in his eyes. You checked my account? We're married, the account is joint. I stood up and walked toward him. Kevin, the 50 million you've taken from me these past few months, it all went to Chloe, didn't it? Kevin avoided my gaze. Chloe returned to start a business. What's wrong with me helping her? Helping her with my money? My voice turned icy. And I hear you're planning to transfer 30% of the company's shares to her? Kevin finally panicked. Eleanor, let me explain. Explain how you drained your wife's entire savings for your ex-girlfriend? Or explain how you plan to give away the company we bill together to her? I scoffed. That's not it. Kevin suddenly grew agitated. The company was my idea to begin with. I built it from the ground up. But the startup capital was mine, the office space was rented by me, and the employee salaries were paid by me. My voice also rose. Without my investment, your ideas would forever remain just ideas. I cut him off directly. Kevin was rendered speechless by my words, only repeating, Chloe had it tough, all those years abroad. She had it tough? I found it laughable. And what about me? To support your career, I quit my job and gave you all my savings. Was it easy for me these past 3 years? But, he still wanted to explain. Enough. I cut him off. Kevin, do you even consider me your wife? Kevin remained silent for a long time, eventually uttering the words that broke my heart. Eleanor, I've always seen you as my best friend and business partner. And? I asked, though I knew the answer. What is she to you? She's the woman I love most. Kevin finally admitted. Eleanor, I'm very grateful for your support all these years, but gratitude isn't love. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Although I had long guessed the answer, hearing it firsthand still felt like a dagger to my heart. So, you want a divorce, don't you? I opened my eyes and looked straight at him. A hint of panic flashed in Kevin's eyes. No, that's not what I meant. We can continue our current relationship, you can still be a company shareholder, and we can still be friends. I scoffed. You want me to be a cash cow for you and Chloe? Watching you two in love while continuing to foot the bill for your lives? Eleanor, it's not what you think. Then what is it? I pulled a document from my bag. This is Chloe's new company, registered today, with 50 million in capital, exactly the amount you transferred to her from me. And the 30% shares you plan to transfer to her are valued at 200 million. That's 250 million in total. Is that my value in your heart? Kevin was completely stunned. How do you know all this? Because I refuse to be a fool anymore. I threw the divorce papers on the coffee table. Kevin, let's get a divorce. No. Kevin panicked. Eleanor, calm down. Divorce won't benefit either of us. And, he continued, Chloe's company still needs support. Chloe's project has great potential, and if you could support it for a bit longer. I was utterly shocked by his shamelessness. He actually still wanted me to continue investing in Chloe. Kevin, do you really think I'll be pushed around forever? I stood up. I've already contacted my lawyer, and you'll receive the divorce papers tomorrow. Kevin rushed forward and grabbed my hand. Calm down, let's talk this through properly. I shook his hand off. There's nothing to talk about. Kevin, these past 3 years, I've given you enough time and opportunities, but you chose betrayal. Now, it's my turn to make choices for myself. With that, I turned and went upstairs without looking back. Back in the bedroom, I locked the door and picked up my phone to text James, send the divorce papers first thing tomorrow morning, with the conditions we discussed. Then I sent another message to my assistant, starting tomorrow, freeze all of Kevin's signing authority. Any operation involving company assets requires my authorization. After doing all this, I lay in bed, listening to the sound of Kevin throwing things downstairs, and surprisingly, felt a long-lost sense of ease. It was time to let Kevin know what true nitpicking meant. The next morning, I received a call from James. Ms. Lin, the divorce papers have been delivered to Mr. Chen. He reacted very strongly and refused to sign. I was in my company office, processing documents, and wasn't surprised by the news. What did he say? He said you were acting on impulse and wanted to talk to you in person. Also, his lawyer contacted me, wanting to negotiate the Prop. Division. Per your request, company shares are to be allocated based on investment proportion. You get 68%, he gets 32%. But, Chen believes this is unreasonable. He says he founded the company and it should be split 50-50. I scoffed. How much money did he invest? According to our investigation, Mr. Chen's actual investment does not exceed 500,000, while your total investment reached 80 million. Then we'll divide it according to the investment proportion. There's no room for negotiation. My stance was firm. Additionally, regarding the 50 million he transferred to Chloe, I want it back. That might be difficult because those funds were transferred from Mr. Chen's account, and legally speaking, James, the source of those funds was me, and I have transfer records as evidence. Although we are married, I clearly stated that those funds were lent to the company, not joint marital property. I said coldly, understood, I'll follow up. As soon as I hung up, I was about to continue working when my assistant, Taylor, knocked and entered. Ms. Lin, Mr. Chen is here and insists on seeing you. Let him in. A few minutes later, Kevin pushed open the door. His face was grim, his eyes full of anger. Eleanor, are you serious? He slammed the divorce papers onto my desk. You want 68% of the shares? Are you insane? I continued to look at my documents without lifting my head. Is there a problem? I invested 80 million, and you invested 500,000. Isn't dividing it proportionally fair? The company was my idea. I built it from the ground up. Kevin's voice trembled with rage. Without me, your money would be a pile of scrap. Without my money, your ideas would be pipe dreams. I finally looked up at him. Kevin, do you want us to crunch the numbers? Kevin was rendered speechless by my words. And you? I continued. Besides your so-called ideas, what else did you contribute? I also paid your CEO salary, 5 million a year, which is 15 million over 3 years. That's not a small amount, is it? Kevin was utterly dumbfounded. He probably hadn't expected me to calculate everything so precisely. Eleanor, we're married. How can you be so calculating with me? He tried to play the emotional card. Exactly, we're married. I scoffed. But when you transferred my money to another woman and planned to give her company shares, did you remember we were married? Kevin was silent for a long time, eventually saying, so what if you get 68% of the shares? The company's core technology is all in my hands. Without me, the company is nothing. Is that so? I smiled. Then let's see. I returned to my seat and pressed the intercom. Taylor, inform all department heads to prepare for a meeting. Tell them there's a stock adjustment. What are you doing? Kevin had a bad feeling. In the conference room, a dozen department heads sat neatly. These were all people I had recruited one by one over the past 3 years, and their loyalty to the company was beyond doubt. Everyone, I said, standing at the front of the conference room, due to a stock structure adjustment, from today onwards, major company decisions will require a vote from the shareholders' meeting. Mr. Chen no longer holds veto power. The other managers nodded in agreement. Kevin's face grew increasingly grim. Have you all been bought off by her? Mr. Chen, that's not fair. Michael, the financial, said. Our salaries were all paid by Ms. Lin. Every penny of the company's funds was invested by Ms. Lin. Of course, we stand with Ms. Lin. And, Robert, the marketing, added, we heard you were planning to give company shares to an outsider. For us employees, that's truly unacceptable. Kevin looked around, realizing that everyone was on my side, and finally understood the gravity of the situation. You're all crazy. He pointed at me. Eleanor, do you think the company can run without me? Of course it can, my tone was Thomas handles the technical aspects, Robert handles marketing, Michael handles operations, and every department has professional talent. And you? What do you know besides the CEO title? These words were undoubtedly a fatal blow. Kevin's face turned pale. Fine, very well, he said, infuriated. Eleanor, you just wait and see how the company collapses. I'll leave with the core technology, and I'll make sure you lose everything. With that, he stormed out of the conference room. I watched his retreating back, feeling a sense of calm. 3 years. I finally didn't have to put up with him anymore. Ms. Lin, Thomas asked worriedly, if Chen really leaves with the technology, what will we do? I smiled. Don't worry, he can't take anything significant. All company technology patents are filed under the company's name, and the core code base is backed up. At most, he can take some technical ideas, but to redevelop them would take at least 2 years. What if he goes to a competitor? Even better, I cut Thomas off. It gives us an opportunity to restructure the team. Everyone, from now on, will be working for ourselves, not for an individual. Once the company goes public, everyone here will receive stock options. At these words, everyone's eyes lit up. This was the difference between Kevin and me. He only knew how to exploit, while I understood how to share. As expected, Kevin packed his things and left the company that afternoon. Even more surprisingly, he actually took a few technical employees with him, as well as Daniel, the sales. Ms. Lin, Daniel copied several important client contact details. Taylor reported to me, looking worried. I was organizing files in Kevin's office and wasn't surprised by this news. Have the legal department send a cease and desist letter. The client data they took involves commercial secrets, and we demand its immediate return. Otherwise, we'll see them in court. As I was speaking, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I speak with Ms. Eleanor? This is Chloe. A sweet, syrupy female voice came through the phone, and I instantly recognized it as Chloe. Can I help you? My tone was cold. Ms. Lin, I think we need to meet and talk. Regarding, I believe there are some misunderstandings that need to be cleared up. There's nothing to talk about. I was about to hang up. Wait, Chloe quickly said. You must have misunderstood Kevin's and my relationship. We really are just friends, and that money was something he offered to help me with. I always felt bad about it. I found myself interested. So, you mean you're going to give the money back? There was a few seconds of silence on the other end. Well, actually, the money has already been invested in the project, so it can't be returned right now. But I can write an IOU and pay it back once the project is profitable. I couldn't help but chuckle. Miss Chloe, do I look like an idiot to you? I didn't mean that. I genuinely want to resolve this issue. How about this? We meet and discuss it in detail. All right, I considered. Tomorrow afternoon at 2, at the Grand Cafe. Okay, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Chloe's voice sounded excited. After hanging up, I sneered. Chloe actively seeking me out definitely wasn't just about returning the money. The next afternoon, I arrived at the cafe on time. Chloe was already waiting there. She was indeed beautiful, with a classic oval face and large eyes, looking delicate and vulnerable. No wonder Kevin couldn't forget her. I sat down and got straight to the point. So, what do you want to talk about? Chloe seemed a little flustered. Well, I heard from Kevin that you found out he transferred money to me and are divorcing him. That money was indeed given to me by Kevin, but I always considered it a loan. I can write an IOU and pay you back in installments. Chloe took out a piece of paper. See, I've already written it. I glanced at the IOU. It was for $50 million, with a TH. Re-year, interest-free term. I pushed the IOU back. Miss Chloe, I'm not looking for money, I'm looking for an explanation. What explanation? Chloe was visibly nervous. My husband betrayed our marriage for another woman. Is that explanation enough? Chloe's face changed. Ms. Lin, Kevin, and I really are just friends. Friends? I pulled out my phone and brought up a photo. Is this also a friendship? In the photo, Kevin and Chloe were embracing, with the hotel lobby in the background. I had asked a private investigator to take this yesterday. Chloe's face completely changed when she saw the photo. This. Miss Chloe, we're adults, so let's drop the act. I put my phone away. Chloe remained silent for a long time, eventually revealing her true colors. All right, since you know everything, I won't pretend anymore. Ms. Lin, Kevin loves me in his heart. Why do you have to hold on to him? I'm holding on to him? I found it laughable. I'm the one who wants a divorce, okay? But the conditions you're asking for are too much. Chloe's tone began to harden. As a woman, you should understand the value of love better. Understand? I scoffed. Then why did you go abroad in the first place? Why weren't you there for Kevin when he was at his lowest? Chloe was rendered speechless by my questions. Miss Chloe, you're nothing but an opportunist. I continued. When had nothing, you chose to go abroad. Now that his career is successful, you've returned. Do you think such a woman deserves the word love? You're being rude. Chloe finally couldn't hold back. I went abroad to study, to make myself better. And what did you learn? How to steal someone else's husband. Chloe's face flushed crimson. Eleanor, don't go too far. I stood up. Miss Chloe, you're the one who's going too far. Stealing someone's husband, spending someone else's money, and now lecturing the original wife? You've got some nerve. I didn't steal him. Kevin pursued me. Chloe also stood up. Her voice a little sharp. So what? I picked up my bag, ready to leave. He's a married man, and you're the other woman. That fact won't change. With that, I left the cafe without looking back. Chloe's shouts followed me. Eleanor, what you're doing will only lead to a lose-lose situation. A lose-lose situation? I sneered inwardly. From the moment they betrayed me, it was already a lose-lose. Now, I was just seeking justice. Back at the company, I immediately called a meeting with the core team. Everyone, Kevin has left the company, and we will face some challenges ahead. I looked at the people around the conference table. First, he might poach more employees. Second, he'll try to steal our clients. Thomas, the technical, said worriedly, Ms. Lin, they took 3 core programmers and some important technical data. Don't worry, I said, pulling out a document. These are the non-compete agreements we signed with each employee. If they go to a competitor, we can sue them. But lawsuits take time, and they can start working now. Michael, the financial, reminded me. So we need to get ahead of them. I opened my laptop. I've already contacted 3 investment firms, and they're very interested in our project. As long as we secure investment, we can expand quickly and leave them behind. Robert, the marketing, asked, Ms. Lin, our biggest problem right now is a shortage of personnel, especially in the technical team. I'm already arranging that. I smiled. Tomorrow, 10 new technical personnel will join us, all poached by me from Kevin's company. With money, everything moves fast. My tone was relaxed. I offered them double the salary they were getting at his company. Thomas gave a thumbs up. Brilliant, Eleanor. As I was speaking, my phone rang. It was Kevin. Eleanor, we need to talk. His voice sounded tired. What's there to talk about? I put it on speaker so everyone could hear. Those are 2 different things. Kevin sounded agitated. Eleanor, I admit I made mistakes, but we can sit down and talk it through properly. Then give me the money first. There was a few seconds of silence on the other end. The money has already been invested in the project. I can't get it out right now. Then there's nothing to talk about. I was about to hang up. Wait. Kevin quickly said. Eleanor, do you know I set up a new company outside? Yes, Phoenix. Registered capital of 10 million, with you and Chloe holding 60% and 40% respectively. I stated it clearly. What about it? Kevin clearly hadn't expected me to know all this. You're spying on me? This is called business intelligence gathering, I corrected him. Since you've chosen to be a competitor, of course I need to know your situation. Eleanor, listen to me. I set up the new company not to compete with you, but to start a new life together with Chloe? I interrupted him. Kevin, there's nothing left for us to say. Either agree to my divorce terms, or we'll see each other in court. Eleanor, I warn you, don't push me to do something drastic. Kevin's voice was full of anger. Oh? What drastic thing could you possibly do? I was interested. Tell me. You care so much about those clients, don't you? I have all their commercial secrets. If you keep being so aggressive, I won't hesitate to make this information public. Hearing this, everyone in the conference room's face changed. If client commercial secrets were leaked, we would not only lose clients but also face huge compensation claims. But I just smiled. Kevin, do you really think I didn't prepare for this? What do you mean? Your words just now constitute extortion, and I recorded this entire phone call. I glanced at my phone. Thank you for providing such excellent evidence for me. The other end of the phone suddenly went silent. Kevin had clearly realized he'd made a mistake. Additionally, I continued, all client commercial secrets are stored on the company's servers, and all ACI SS permissions have been revoked. At most, you only have some outdated information. Impossible. Kevin didn't believe it. I'm the company founder. I have supreme authority. You used to, but not anymore. My tone was calm. From the moment you left the company, all system permissions were revoked. This is standard exit procedure. Kevin was utterly dumbfounded. He probably hadn't expected me to cut off his retreat so quickly. Eleanor, you're ruthless, he said, infuriated. This is called professionalism. With that, I hung up. The conference room was silent. Everyone was stunned by the conversation they had just witnessed. Ms. Lin, Thomas asked cautiously, will Chen really leak client information? No, I shook my head. He's just bluffing. If he were to actually leak client information, his new company wouldn't last. No client would trust someone who leaks commercial secrets. So his threat just now. He just wanted to scare me. I stood up. All right, don't let him distract you. Let's proceed with our original plan. After the meeting, I returned to my office and sent a message to James. Kevin is suspected of extortion. I have recorded evidence. We can consider reporting him to the police. Soon, James replied, received. I will prepare the relevant materials immediately. However, I suggest you don't report him to the police yet. Keep it as a bargaining chip. I thought about it and decided he had a point. Reporting him now wouldn't gain me much. It was better to keep this trump card for later. Just then, Taylor knocked and came in. Ms. Lin, a woman calling herself Chloe wants to see you. She says it's important. I checked the time. Barely half an hour had passed. Chloe couldn't sit still, could she? Let her in. Chloe walked into the office, her face a mess. She had clearly heard the phone conversation earlier. All traces of arrogance were gone, replaced by anxiety. Ms. Lin, I think there might indeed be some misunderstandings between us, she said. ID cautiously. Misunderstandings? I scoffed. Where are the misunderstandings? You stole my husband, and you spent my money. These are facts. Chloe's voice was very small. Kevin pursued me, and I was very conflicted. Conflicted? I found it amusing. Then why didn't you reject him? Why did you accept his money? Chloe was rendered speechless by my questions and could only lower her head, saying, I genuinely needed startup funds at the time, and Kevin said the money was an investment. Investment? I interrupted her. 50 million to invest in a project that doesn't even have a product yet? Miss Chloe, do I look like an idiot to you? Chloe's face flushed crimson. I can give you the money back. I turned and looked at her. Do you think this is about money? Kevin betrayed our marriage, and that kind of betrayal is unforgivable. A hint of despair flashed in Chloe's eyes. So, you're going to burn all bridges? Burn all bridges? I walked back to my seat. Miss Chloe, I'm just taking back what's mine. Chloe looked on, utterly defeated. Watching her like this, I suddenly felt a pang of pity, then said, Miss Chloe, what I want is simple. First, Kevin must divorce me on my terms. Second, the 50 million he transferred to you must be returned. Third, you cannot use the technology and client resources I invested in. I'm giving you 1 month. Either comply with my terms, or we'll see each other in court. Chloe was completely desperate. 1 month is impossible. Impossible? I scoffed. Then why didn't you say impossible when you were asking for the money? Just as I was speaking, there was a commotion outside the door, and then Kevin burst in. His face was contorted with rage. I won't let you continue to humiliate Chloe like this. I looked at him protecting Chloe and felt a mix of emotions. I'm not humiliating him. I admit I made mistakes, but you can't go to extremes. Kevin's voice trembled. Eleanor, after all, we were husband and wife. And wife? I was incensed by his words. Did you ever think we were husband and wife? Kevin was rendered speechless by my words. I walked up to him and looked him straight in the eyes. I'm asking you one last time, do you regret it? He remained silent for a long time, eventually shaking his head. I don't regret loving Chloe, but I regret hurting you. Hearing this answer, I gave up all hope. Very well, I returned to my seat. Since you don't regret it, then face the consequences. I'll give you 3 days to consider. Either comply with my terms, or I'll take this to the media. You wouldn't dare. Kevin roared. Try me. I picked up the phone. Taylor, please contact a few media outlets. I want to hold a press conference. Chloe quickly intervened. Ms. Lin, we agree to your terms. Kevin looked at her in disbelief. Chloe. I looked at the two of them, feeling no sympathy whatsoever. Excellent. Then we'll sign the agreement tomorrow. I pressed the intercom. Taylor, please show them out. Kevin and Chloe left looking dejected. I sat in my office, gazing at the night view outside, my mood incredibly complex. I had won, but why wasn't I happy at all? Perhaps it was because I had lost not just a husband, but also my trust and love. The next morning, Kevin and Chloe arrived at the Law of James Associates on time. Ms. Lin, I prepared the agreement. James handed me the document. As per your request, company shares are divided 68% and 32%, and the 50 million transferred by Mr. Chen to Ms. Chloe needs to be returned within 1 month. I carefully read through the agreement, confirmed everything was in order, and signed my name. Mr. Chen, it's your turn. James pushed the agreement toward Kevin. Kevin picked up the pen, but his hand was trembling. He looked at the clauses in the agreement, his eyes filled with resentment. Then he took a deep breath and signed his name on the agreement. All right, now Ms. Chloe needs to sign the repayment agreement. Jam. ES produced another document. Chloe looked at the agreement, her face growing even paler. 50 million was undoubtedly an astronomical sum for her. Ms. Chloe, is there a problem? James asked. No problem. Chloe bit her lip and signed her name. After all the documents were signed, Kevin suddenly spoke. Eleanor, I want to talk to you alone. I checked the time. 5 minutes. James and Chloe discreetly left the conference room, leaving just Kevin and me. Eleanor, Kevin's voice was low. I know you hate me, but I hope you understand that I never intended to hurt you. I just got carried away back then, I didn't think things through. Kevin lowered his head. I know that's an excuse, but I truly didn't mean any harm. Kevin, I looked at the man I once deeply loved. Do you know? The most terrifying thing about betrayal isn't the wound itself, but how it shatters trust. I know I was wrong. I'm willing to spend my life making it up to you. We're over. I cut him off. A flicker of despair crossed Kevin's eyes. Eleanor, can't we really start over? I stood up. Kevin, have you forgotten? You're in love with Chloe, not me. I can forget her. Kevin, some things, once they happen, can never be undone. My voice was calm. Kevin fell completely silent. He knew that it was truly over between us. As I walked out of the Law of James Associates, I felt a lightness I'd never experienced before. Back at the company, Taylor excitedly reported to me, Ms. Lynn, great news. 3 investment firms just contacted us, all expressing interest in investing. Really? My interest was piqued. What are their terms? The highest offer is for $200 million, valuing the company at $1.5 billion. Taylor presented a report. And they're very confident in our tech team. I looked at the report. It was indeed very tempting. If we accepted this investment, the company's valuation would double. Arrange a meeting, I said. But make sure my controlling stake remains unchanged. Understood, Ms. Lynn. Just then, Thomas, the head of technology, knocked and came in. Ms. Lynn, I have an idea I'd like to discuss with you. What is it? It's about the development direction for our new product. Thomas presented a technical proposal. We can leverage our existing technological advantages to develop a completely new product that will directly compete with Kevin's new company. I carefully reviewed the proposal, and my eyes gradually lit up. This was indeed a brilliant idea. What kind of budget would we need? I asked. Around $50 million, with a 6-month timeline. Thomas replied. If successful, we could completely dominate this market. Alright, let's launch the project immediately. I decided on the spot. Thomas, I'm putting you in charge of this project. Thomas nodded excitedly. Don't worry, Ms. Lynn, I won't let you down. Watching's retreating figure, my heart swelled with determination. That afternoon, as I was going through documents, I suddenly received a text message from Chloe. Ms. Lynn, I'd like to discuss the repayment. Could you give me some more time? I replied, the agreement has been signed, there's no room for negotiation. Soon after, Chloe sent another message. I can use company shares to settle the debt. I'm willing to transfer 40% of the company's shares to you. Seeing this message, I paused. Although this company was newly established, 40% of its shares would indeed be worth a considerable amount if it developed successfully. I thought for a moment, then replied, send me your business plan. Half an hour later, I received the business plan from Chloe. Flipping through it, I couldn't help but sneer. I picked up the phone and dialed Chloe's number. Miss Sue, I've reviewed your business plan. What do you think of it? Chloe's voice was tense. It's quite creative, I smiled. But there's a small issue. It seems the core technology you're using is all patented by our company. The other end of the line suddenly went silent. Miss Sue, are you planning to infringe on our patent rights? I continued to ask. Chloe was clearly flustered. We could purchase a patent license. Of course, my tone was relaxed. The patent licensing fee is $10 million a year. That's too expensive. Chloe almost shrieked. I said calmly, if you think it's too expensive, you're free to not use our technology. Chloe was completely dumbfounded. Without this core technology, their project was nothing but a house of cards. Ms. Lynn, you're deliberately making things difficult for us. Chloe's voice was tearful. Making things difficult? I found it amusing. Miss Sue, this is called intellectual property protection. If you think it's unfair, you're welcome to develop your own technology. With that, I hung up the phone. Now it was their turn to have a headache. Without core technology, their company was just an empty shell. How would they ever repay my $50 million? I leaned back in my chair, watching the sunset outside the window, feeling immensely pleased. This was the price of betrayal. 3 days later, Kevin proactively reached out to meet me. The location chosen was the upscale we used to frequent, probably hoping to sway me with nostalgia. When I arrived, Kevin was already waiting. He looked even more gaunt than a few days prior, his eyes filled with exhaustion. Eleanor, thank you for agreeing to see me. He stood up and pulled out my chair, just like he used to. I sat down and said directly, what do you want? Eleanor, you know our current predicament. Kevin gave a bitter laugh. Without the core technology, the company can't operate at all. And the patent licensing fee is so high. That's your problem. I picked up the menu. My only concern is when I'll get my money back. Kevin looked at my cold demeanor, a flicker of pain in his eyes. Eleanor, you've really changed so much. Have I? I looked up at him. What do you think I used to be like? You used to be kind, gentle, and never so aggressive. Kevin's voice was soft. I miss the old you. I couldn't help but laugh. Kevin, if you truly missed the old me, why did you betray me in the first place? Kevin was speechless at my question. Yes, I was kind and gentle back then, I continued. But I'm not that foolish woman anymore. Kevin was silent for a long time, eventually saying, Eleanor, I have a proposal. What is it? I can transfer all of my 32% shares in the original company to you, giving you 100% ownership. Kevin looked at me. In exchange, please waive the $50 million debt. I was taken aback, not expecting him to propose such terms. Based on the current valuation, 32% of the shares would be worth over $400 million, which is indeed far more than $50 million. Why? I asked, confused. This would be like giving away all your hard work to me. Because I owe you. Tears welled up in Kevin's eyes. Eleanor, for the past 3 years, I'm sorry for what I did to you, for hurting you. I want to make it up to you as best I can. I don't ask for your forgiveness, I just hope you can live well. I pulled my hand away from him. Kevin, stop playing the victim here. You're just doing this because your new company is failing, and you want to get rid of the debt. That's not it. He frantically tried to explain. Isn't it? I pulled out my phone and brought up a web page. Your new company has already ceased operations, and the employees have been laid off. Just yesterday, Chloe was still frantically borrowing money to pay off her debts. Kevin's face turned ashen when he saw the content on the web page. Eleanor, it's not what you think. Really? I brought up a few more photos. These are Chloe's chat records with investors. She explicitly stated that once she received investment, she would immediately abscond with the money. You weren't aware of this? Kevin stared at the chat logs, completely stunned. Looks like you didn't know either. I put my phone away. Kevin. Chloe used you. She never had any real intention of starting a business from the beginning, she just wanted to swindle money. Impossible. Chloe isn't like that. Kevin shook his head, unwilling to believe it. But that's the truth. I stood up. Kevin, Chloe never loved you. All she wanted was your money. With that, I left. Talking to someone like him was simply a waste of breath. The next morning, as soon as I arrived at the office, I received a call from Kevin. Eleanor, Chloe's been arrested. His voice sounded weary. The police say she's suspected of contract fraud. I know. My tone was calm, as if the matter had nothing to do with me. Eleanor, did you call the police? Kevin asked directly. No, it wasn't me. I answered truthfully. It was her other creditors who reported her. From what I understand, she not only owed us money but also defrauded several other investors for a total amount exceeding $200 million. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. Kevin, I broke the silence. By now, you should understand, shouldn't you? Chloe was never a kind woman, she's a professional con artist. Kevin completely broke down, and his sobs could be heard over the phone. Eleanor, I was wrong, I was so wrong, he kept repeating. How could I be so foolish? How could I have believed her? Kevin, we're over. Stop bothering me. My voice was resolute. With that, I hung up the phone and blocked his number. That afternoon, James came to the company to update me on the latest developments. Ms. Lynn, good news. Charges have been filed in Chloe's case, and she's likely facing a prison sentence of over 10 years. James presented a document. Furthermore, the police have already seized all assets under her name, including that shell company. Will we be able to recover our money? I asked. Most of it can be recovered. James nodded. According to the police investigation, Chloe's accounts still hold over $30 million, and with her properties and cars, it's enough to repay your debts. I nodded. That's good. Additionally, James continued, Kevin has proactively contacted me, stating he wishes to gratuitously transfer his remaining 32% shares to you. Gratuitous transfer? I was somewhat surprised. Why is he suddenly so generous? He claims it's to compensate for the harm he caused you. James looked at my expression. Accept it. If he wants to make amends, then let him make thorough amends. I said calmly. All right, I'll arrange for the necessary procedures. After left, I sat in my office, reflecting on everything that had happened recently. From discovering Kevin's betrayal until now, it had only been a little over a month, but it felt like an entire year. I lost a husband but gained a complete company. I lost trust and love but gained validation of my own capabilities. Perhaps that's life, you win some, you lose some. That evening, back home, I looked at the empty house and suddenly felt a pang of loneliness. It used to be filled with memories of Kevin and me, but now I was all alone. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contact list, realizing there was no one I could chat with. For the past 3 years, I had almost completely cut off all social connections for Kevin's career. Perhaps it was time to rebuild my social life. I sent a text to Emily, a good friend from college. Long time no see. Want to catch up sometime? Soon, Emily replied, Eleanor, you finally remembered me. I heard you got divorced? I replied, yes, I'm free. That's great. Emily sent a happy emoji. I never liked Kevin anyway. I always thought he wasn't good enough for you. Dinner tomorrow night? Sounds good. After chatting for a while, I felt much better. It turned out there were many other wonderful things in life besides love. 3 months later, I stood on the top floor of the company's new office building, overlooking the entire city. The company's valuation had reached $5 billion, and I, who had once been a betrayed wife, had become one of the city's youngest female entrepreneurs. A photo lay on the table, a group shot of my employees and me celebrating the company's public listing. Everyone's face was beaming, including mine. I realized that even without him, I could still smile so happily. From now on, I would never compromise myself for anyone, nor would I ever pin my happiness on another person. I had the power to make my own life good, and that was enough. The moon outside the window was full and bright, just like my current mood, clear and resolute. A new life begins tonight.